Hi, my name is Jim Crabtree. I was a docent here at the Zimmerman Automobile Driving Museum. Very sad to see it close down because this museum was totally unlike any other car museum in the world. This museum aimed to present history. Every car museum talks about history, but history behind of glass and history that you can touch are two different things. A lot of people say you can own history, you can touch history, and that's what you could do here at the Automobile Driving Museum. The cars were not roped off. You could go up and you could touch them, you could sit in them, you could enjoy them as a car was meant to be enjoyed. And in the effort of preserving the history here at the Zimmerman Automobile Driving Museum, something that they did that is really pretty impressive and doesn't always happen when cars come from museums, they had files on each car. Each car has a file folder full of paperwork. Now we're standing next to a 27 Buick Model 27 sedan here, and inside each one of these files is paperwork that was collected from each car when it came to the museum. So we have in here, and each file is different. Some have more than others, but here is shop manual supplements, repair parts book supplements, other information, articles about, this is for the 29 Buick, and a tune-up guide, wiring diagrams, all kinds of information. And the tune-up wiring diagrams and service manuals were important because, again, it was the driving museum, and these cars were operational and operated. So having the information to keep them operational is important. And we hope if you buy cars from the Zimmerman Automobile Driving Machine that you'll continue to operate them too. And come over here to the next car. This is a Hupmobile. Now this car is a hobby car. I don't think any Hupmobile ever sold for multi-millions of dollars. They're not known to grace the grass at Pebble Beach. They're hobby cars, they're fun cars. And this one was a hobby fun car for somebody. But who was that person? How many times do you go in an auction, you buy a car and you think, wow, this car looks like it was well loved, it was restored, but the history starts with you as a new buyer and you never learn the provenance of what came before you. The cars here at the Automobile Driving Museum many times come with the history. Again, here we have huge folder full of papers on the this 29 Hupmobile Century 6. They come with signs that describe the car. This car happened to have been owned by Carl Price. Carl Price, here's his certificate for being a master judge in the Antique Automobile Association. Here is copies of the pink slip when he bought this car in 1972. He's had it that long. Here are pictures of him enjoying it. It was made a calendar, made the calendar one year. Pictures of him enjoying it at meets, and a picture of him driving it with his wife Frances. And the appraisal of when it was donated to the museum in 2011. So here's all this information, all this history that goes right along with the car. This particular car here also has owner's manual, a Hupmobile Century 6 service literature and information. And so these cars are living history, they're breathing history, history that the ADM tried to bring to the people by letting them enjoy the cars as they were. Next up, we have a Durant Coupe. This in here is a 29 Durant Coupe. And the cars here are not 100-point cars. They were never meant to be. But in reality, cars are not 100-point cars. 100-point cars aren't realistic. Here, you will look at the cars and you will see the upholstery has some wear to it. It has maybe some scratches to it, but that's the way they were. That's the way they existed when they were 2 years old, or when you bought it off a used car lot when it was 3, 5, 7 years old. They had a history behind them. And our Durant Coupe here, again, it too comes with a pile of literature and information. Here is the owner's manual for it. Here's a Peachy folder. Yeah, Peachy folders. How old is that? Who remembers those? But it's the folder with all kinds of information about the car, wiring diagrams, when it was restored, what they were restoring it for, where they were getting parts from at that time. And this is the kind of stuff you find here. These are the labels from the paint cans that were used to paint this car. I don't know exactly how long ago that was, but here it is. Here's the history of this car, not just from new. A lot of times people look at cars and say, oh, when the car was new and the history of Durant Motors and 1929, and that's it. But the car was only new for 1 year. They're used cars and collector cars for decades and decades afterwards. And it's that decades and decades of history that comes back to add flavor to the car and color. Here's a parts list for the Durant. Here again is another folder full of information on the Durant, where they were on the internet asking people questions. How do I restore it? Here's the parts we need. Communication with other Durant owners. So these cars here coming from the Automobile Driving Museum are not just shiny show cars with no history, but these cars really embody history by coming along with a story. Now again, as I said, not every car comes with the full packet of information. Some have a lot of stuff in them, some have less stuff in them, but each one's different, each one's unique.